All right, Bismillah. Are we all set? Ta-da! All right, first, this one is standing firmly on our own 2 feet. Okay, number 1, what we're doing here in this piece is we are finding that place of stability, finding that place where whatever anybody else says, whatever crazy thing anybody else says, we are going to measure it against these points of belief. And if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. And we're going to know that. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, so there are 3 points. In Aqeedah, we have 6 points of Aqeedah. And for those of you who didn't hear me, our time is a little bit short, so I'm going to actually be rushing through this piece a little bit. Number 1. So here we have 3 points. Now remember, what I'm doing here is I'm not giving you a full Aqeedah class. I do teach that. What I'm giving you here is what I believe is the necessary cream to help us measure all the stuff around us that we're hearing. That's what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so there are 3 points around Tawheed and the oneness of God that I think we really need to hold on to, put inside of our hearts, and hold on to no matter what. In all of the craziness of life and the difficulty of life and the problems of relationships and all of the spinning and the moving and all the things that are happening to us. Number 1, we have to be sure of the presence of God. Absolutely 100% sure and know that the presence of God is real and true. The minute we start to wonder about that, we're going to struggle. We won't be able to obey him or follow his way. So we have to be sure of that presence of God. Just know it. Like if everyone could just close their eyes for a minute and ask yourself, what's my percentage? How much do I really, really know? How much do I really know? And am sure and certain of the present, the constant and consistent and never ending and never lessening and never increasing, always the constant and consistent presence of God. Okay, you can open your eyes. Just think about that for yourself. 2, in order to answer the question, who is God? Who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We have to know Asma'Allahul Husna. This is something that converts can learn. It's not so difficult. It's not like learning the whole Quran. It's not like, learning an entire body of hadith. There's 99 names. You could do 1 a day. You'll be done in 4 months. It's something that if you're memorizing Quran, you can work on this when you're menstruating. So whatever it is that you're, like, let's say you're memorizing Quran and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do in this week that I'm menstruating in? Alhamdulillah. It's like a new way to it's like a new topic area for a whole week. So find a way to fit them in. If you do 1 a day, 1 a week, SubhanAllah. If we do 1 a week, there are 52 weeks in the year. We would finish them in a year and a half. And in fact, 1 a week might be really powerful to think about it and know it and write it and practice your calligraphy. Find some verses in the Quran that use it. Think about its meaning. Look up Lisan al-Arab. Look up the English version of Lisan al-Arab on Google, the dictionary. Really look it up in your Arabic dictionary, depending on your Arabic level. That would be a cool project, actually. A year and a half of Asma'Allah al-Husna. That's what we should do for our new book club. Oh my God, that'd be so cool. Anyway, now, when you really know them, when you really know the Asma'Allah al-Husna, the characteristics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's hard to put that in English, then we begin to rid ourselves of needing other people, turning to other people. It doesn't mean we don't love other people. It doesn't mean we're not happy to be around other people. In fact, the more we know Allah, the more we can be patient and loving towards people around us. And know that He is all-seeing and all-hearing. So when we know Allah, we're sure of His presence, and then we're sure of who He is. We know all of His names. All Al-Wadud, the most loving. Ar-Rahman, we know that one already. Al-Ghafar, Al-Ghafur, 2 completely, almost the same words. Why are they there? We would ask ourselves in the Arabic language. Why Ghafar and Ghafur? They both come from Ghafara. At-Tawwab, also right in that world of forgiveness. What's going on? Who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Really, really learning that and really, really knowing that helps you to become a person who is truly independent of being negatively affected by the rude behavior, oppressive behavior, abusive behavior of people around us. Because all of a sudden we're less affected by the people around us. It also helps with all sorts of other things like recognizing privilege, recognizing, you know what I mean by recognizing privilege? So one of the main problems in society today is racism and privilege and this whole idea of entitlement. That I, as a whatever, in my world, I as a white woman am entitled to ABC, for example. And in the Muslim environment, it's I as an Arab woman. Generally, entitlement comes with being Arab. And to be able to recognize that and see that, we need this. We're going to see our blind spots. If we're going to get rid of racism and things like this, we have to really know the presence of God is here all the time and who he is. And then the third piece is absolute confidence in this knowledge. It's so important to be absolutely certain of it, really deeply inside. This piece first, because this is what's going to protect us from what I call dangerous notions. So whatever those things are. So for example, the bid'ah wars of the 1990s, okay? The bid'ah wars of the 1990s are the bid'ah wars of the beginning of this century. Anyone who was absolutely certain of the presence of God and knew Asma'ullah al-Husna and was certain of that would have looked at the bid'ah wars as something really silly and would have understood the absolute ridiculousness of what so many people were saying. It would have been natural. And maybe they would have needed a little bit more, which is the next one about the Prophet ﷺ. But this is, I highly encourage you to work on this piece in your own selves. Work on, and no one can give this to you. You can't take this from a husband. Your husband might be Shaykh al-Islam. He can't give it to you. Your husband might be the Fir'aun of the 21st century. He also can't give it to you. Like we can't get it from anywhere, any other human being. This is something only you can give yourself. If you have a sheikh or a teacher, they can't give it to you either. Even if it's, you're a Sufi and you have the sheikh who's, from the friends of God. You can look at them as an example maybe of someone who really gets that presence of God, but they can't give it to you in a spoon. Open your mouth. Doesn't work. You have to work on it yourself. And working on it yourself, you have to know his names and really understand them so that you can be absolutely certain of this knowledge of God. La ilaha illahu. Really, really know it. Okay. Now, when we're talking about the Arabic name, Allah, this is something I'm sure, I don't know, I used to think about this a lot. Why? I had many different thoughts, but just for the purposes of time, I'll just bring you to the last thought, which is, how is it that Muslims are of so many different cultures and countries and languages, mashallah. And mashallah, think about it. We're Malaysian and we're Chinese, Northern China. I'm not talking about converts here. I'm talking about people that have been Muslim for centuries. We're North African, we're African, we're European, we're Turkish, we're Arab, different types of Arabs. And yet, and Pakistani and India and all these countries. And yet, even though every single one of these countries has its own name for God, an original name for God in their language, every single culture and country took on the Arabic name for Allah, even when they're speaking their own language. So it would make sense, for example, when we learn Arabic and we started speaking Arabic, and then, of course, obviously we would use Allah. But it's fascinating to me that all of these different countries took on Ism Jalalahu, the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even in their languages. I think we need to push the pause button on that for a minute and think about why it's important. Of course, when we do da'wah to non-Muslims, it's not like we have to use the word Allah. I use God all the time with my family, especially. I can just imagine talking to my mom and saying, may Allah bless you. Astaghfirullah al-azim. Allah hadi. That's what I was saying. Allah guide you. And when that doesn't happen, may Allah send rats to your house and cockroaches and viruses, stuff like that. That would be better. Anyway, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So Allah, Allah, this name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, back to my talk. Allah. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. So what is it in this name? What is it in this name? This name is within it, Allahu Alam, like again, only Allah knows, but according to what we know from our early scholars, this is the name that Allah named himself in the Quran. And in this name, in Arabic, there is no equivalent. And this name is by itself a name. It's not like a noun, as opposed, it's a name. It's a proper name in a language that doesn't have proper nouns. And there is sacredness in the name Allah. And in saying the name Allah and saying it correctly, there's sacredness there. And there is beauty in it. And there is spirituality in saying his name. And in our history, we talked about the different development of different sciences a little bit. And all of the different tariqas that developed, they all developed around the name of God. And they would ask their followers to do it in different ways. So the Qadariyas say La ilaha illallah. And they have breathing with it and all this stuff. And the Naqshbandis say Allah. And the Tijanis, I think they say Allah as well. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. And so all around this word, this name, and something very interesting that I read once is this, the reason that these developed and these beautiful, phrases, practicing the phrases of praise happened in lands away from Mecca and Medina is because when Islam spread to these places of non-Arabic speaking converts that were converting, the converts couldn't access the Quran on a spiritual level. Obviously, we all understand that. There was a new language. It was difficult to read Arabic. It wasn't that they didn't want to read it. They wanted to, but it would take time to develop those skills to be able to access it. And yet every convert craves spirituality. Every convert craves a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, craves a connection to the Creator, the one who is a reason for the conversion. And so all in these different places, these different tariqas or ways of remembering God developed based on different teachers. And a lot of it was for these foreigners, these non-Arabic speaking, so that they could taste spirituality while they prepared to learn Quran and other things that would help them as well. Or even prayer. Like prayer for a new convert is actually not like super fun. It's kind of like, okay, up and it's a lot of it is just really rote stuff. And it can become the most beautiful of experiences. But sometimes it takes time. And so these tariqas were developed around that, and a lot of the du'at, the da'wah that happened came from converts in those places because they developed a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the remembrance of his name in some way. Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Astaghfirullah, all of these different phrases. It's not the same. It doesn't have the same effect on your heart if you say glory be to God. Nothing wrong with saying glory be to God, but it doesn't count. It's not the same sort of dhikr. It's not the same thing that the Quran talks about when the Quran tells us that as-salah li dhikri, that prayer is for dhikr and siyam, fasting is for the dhikr of Allah. So anyway, that's, I think as converts, it's important to think about that and just to reflect on it a minute, because we've changed our word for God, and that means something. And so you have to spend some time making that an intellectual decision as well as an emotional decision, so that when you're talking to God, you feel it. You feel that you're talking to God even when you're using a new name. I mean, that's a serious thing. If you really think about it, how much we talked about names yesterday for human beings. This is our name for our Creator. Okay, and in this understanding of who He is that He is the before, He didn't become, He is the after, He's eternal. These are all things you already know. But look at the last sentence. So to be Amatullah, to be of us, Amatullah is the female version of Abdullah. To be Amatullah is to reach the highest level and most honorable of human aspirations. That we need to think about it like that. Like we're working towards really being one who serves Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And when we start to know who He really is, all power is His, all existence belongs to Him. He is all hearing, all knowing. Every living thing belongs to Him. And when we really think about that, we think about our bodies. And what is it that we said the other day? We have 62,000 miles of blood vessels and veins in your body. And yet it only takes 1 second for a blood vessel to go through them. La ilaha illahu. What? What do you mean? That doesn't make any sense at all. That's how it is. SubhanAllah. And this is the Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. So when we have to spend time thinking about that. We live in a secular time where people want us to forget about the greatness of God. So we have to force ourselves into that remembrance. Force ourselves into spending time thinking about God and reflecting on Him. Okay, next. So that was, here's the 99 names, right? Angels. Belief in His angels is part of our belief system. Now, angels are, in the 90s, when Muslims were super literalist, the Western world was anti-angel. And so we didn't talk a lot about angels, and our books didn't talk a lot about angels because we were in this really sort of modernist world. But angels are a really important part. If we're talking about in our aqeedah, it's important to believe in Allah's angels. That means we really have to understand that that's important. But also believing in His angels means believing in the unseen world that lives with us here, including all the creatures of the unseen world. So, angel comes from alaka, arsala, ablaga. These are the Arabic terms. And what it means is the one that informs. That's what an angel means. So we need to get out of our Hollywood angel, put the Hollywood angel aside, okay? It means one that informs, one that brings messages, one that carries words, and the one that does what it's told. Okay, that's angels. That's what an angel does. That's a definition of an angel. Very different than the Hollywood angels. Okay, angels are created from light. Angels are created from light. And they were created before the human being. And they're not male and they're not female. All of Western literature has angels either as beautiful women or as men, once in a while as men. Very rarely. Usually they're beautiful women. Oh, unless they're men who have come down to earth and they fall in love with a woman and then they're like, I'd rather be human than angel. No. That's only in the movies. We don't believe any of this stuff. Angels are a separate creation. Angels would never desire a human. This is important. All of our movies say that they would. Like we have so many movies that have angels that desire to be back. Human beings don't become angels. That's a Christian belief. The reason we have movies like this is because Christians believe that human beings become angels. Now, maybe a Christian theologian would like to argue with me about that because I know that that's not 100% true, but the common knowledge of people is that human beings become angels when they die. That's not true. That's not what we believe. Angels are different and separate. Human beings remain what we are in Jannah, and that's why we appreciate and love Jannah so much. I had a really good soto yesterday, and I said to the woman who made it, I said, I think in Jannah I'm going to have a whole year of just eating this soto. And you never get full in Jannah. It's so fun. You just keep eating it and 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 eating it. And then you're like, okay, pizza. Okay, so they're not men and women. They don't make decisions. Their decisions are based only upon Allah's orders. They don't have mistakes, and they're not inclined towards evil. They don't think about or move towards evil at all. They can take on human shape, and they have before. They took on human shape at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. They took on human shape when Angel Jibreel brought Kalam Allah to Maryam, radiallahu anha, and at other times as well. Their abode is in the heavens, and they visit the earth when Allah tells them to, and they have like shifts and stuff. They do have wings. That's not a picture of their wings. That is a picture from Google of many different wings, just FYI. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in English, all praise is due to Allah, creator of the heavens and the earth, who made the angels, messengers having wings. Ajniha. Ajniha. And then it's either 2 or 3 or 4. Isn't that cool? Imagine an angel, with 4 wings or 3 wings. How do 3 wings even work? I don't know. But hey, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 3 wings or 4 or 2. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he received revelation from Angel Jibreel, when he was leaving, he looked in the sky and Angel Jibreel showed himself in his real form. And he said he filled the entire sky. Entire sky. That's why, I rerun this online, these online classes. And, I have online halaqas too. And, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when, they say that a man came and sat in a jalsat ilm, the angels surround you and ask for forgiveness for you. And so when I think about how Angel Jibreel filled the whole horizon, and I think about us online, each of us in our houses, so Minnesota, California, New York, Canada, Malaysia, Singapore, UK, Bosnia, all over the world, I imagine the angels circling the earth around this halaqah. And it's not, I don't feel like that's a huge imagine, because the angels are, their size is, who knows, but the Prophet ﷺ said he filled the horizon. So I imagine that. And I feel like when we're having those classes and the angels are in sort of this circle around the earth, that maybe there's just a little bit more peace on the earth at that time. Allahu alam. That's how I feel. But, inshallah, we need those angels in our lives. Okay, what do they do? What do the angels do? They have purpose, and what they do is they are soldiers of God. They work for God. They're workers, employees, however you want to say that. They bring down Allah's mercy and punishment as He wills. So it's the angels that bring down the blessings, and it's the angels that bring down Allah's punishment. They gather the souls when we die. They give life. So if you think about that, who here has been pregnant before? Anyone? You can raise your hand. Don't be scared. If you've been pregnant before. Not now. Any time in your life. Or now. Now is fine. Yeah. Okay. So imagine that at one point in that early pregnancy, an angel visited you and gave the soul to the baby within you. That's really powerful. That means that, just think that women are capable of receiving angels in that way. That's really a powerful thought. So angels bring down rain, they send drought, they send wind, they do all sorts of jobs that are outside our senses, things we have no sort of idea about, and they pray for us. In fact, they pray for the tulab al-ilm, they pray for the students of knowledge, and there's a hadith that says that students of knowledge are prayed for by angels and by even the whales of the sea ask for forgiveness for students of knowledge. But they ask for forgiveness and mercy for believers. And there's one hadith that says that an angel visits in the morning, and if he finds that we are stingy, he asks that Allah be stingy with us. Because stinginess is such a terrible characteristic. And if you are not married yet, let me give you a piece of advice. Do not marry a stingy man. All other things are possible. If you're already married to a stingy man, may Allah help you. Get a job. Iblis is not a fallen angel. This is a Christian. In Christianity, Iblis is a fallen angel. Lucifer is a fallen angel in Christianity. So because we live in a globalized digital culture, very often Muslims also have this understanding. I've run into this a lot. Iblis is not a fallen angel. He was a jinn. Now, the story is that he was praying. He was a jinn who prayed a lot. This is scary. Who prayed a lot. And in fact, he tried to keep up with the angels in their worship of God. And he was amongst the angels worshiping God when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam and ordered the angels to bow to him. And all of the angels bowed to him because angels obey Allah. They never would imagine not obeying Allah. And Iblis did not. Out of his arrogance, you created him from clay. I'm created from the smoke of fire. And of course, you know the rest of the story. But just push the pause button for a minute on a piece of that story. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Iblis an opportunity for repentance. An opportunity to repent and seek forgiveness. But instead, he asked for something else. He asked for time. Just give me time so I can drag them down with me one by one. Yes. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you will not have power over my servants, ibadi. So the shaitan doesn't have real power. He has only the power of suggestion. But the weaker you are spiritually, the stronger that suggestion is for you. And so has anyone here, this is a Christian book, but has anyone here read, the Screw Tape Letters? It's an old book by C.S. Lewis. It's a Christian book, full disclosure, and also, by the way, it's a super Christian book. But it's really interesting. It's a fiction. It's a creative fiction book. It's not real. Even though it's Christian, it's still not real for Christians. It's just, he made it up. But what it is, it's letters between the head devil and his worker devil. And it's fascinating because you see this conversation. It's just letters between them. That's the whole book. And you see this younger devil, this younger shaitan, who has an assigned person who it's his goal to get him away from, in the book Christianity, but get him away from God, let's say. And the things he does. And you see these things in real life. Like if you read the book, you see for real that, yeah, oh my God. Yeah, that's exactly what I see happening with people, or maybe what happened with me. And it's a fascinating book because it allows for the creative muscle to sort of imagine the kinds of things shaitan might say to someone. And the reality is that most of us have heard those things anyway. The book doesn't say this, but I have a play that I once saw. And in this play, this woman, she's asleep in bed, okay? And her alarm goes off for Fajr. And so she opens her eyes, and in the play, it's a play. In the play, shaitan comes to her and whispers over her head, you had a very long day yesterday. Just go back to sleep for 10 minutes. And she goes, just 10 more minutes. Puts a snooze button, and he goes away. And then the alarm goes off again in 10 minutes. He comes back, and shaitan says, you had a tickle in your throat last night. You might be getting sick. You want to another 10 minutes won't hurt. She'll sleep. He comes back in 10 minutes. That water is so cold. You really need to warm up. Get under the blankets and warm up a bit before you get into the bathroom. And then he comes back in. And then when the sun comes up, he doesn't come. He doesn't care if she gets up. So he's like, ah! And she jumps around, but she's missed Fajr by then. And so that's the suggestion of shaitan. No one has to listen. Obviously, it was a play. And no one knows exactly the words that I use. And I said, I would imagine for each one of us, it's unique words for each one of us. Imam Abu Hanifa, on his deathbed, they saw him and he was saying, Laysa al-an, not even now, not even now. And they said, after he kind of came out of what was a sort of a half sleep, they said to him, oh father, ya shaykhna, what were you saying? Why were you saying this? He said, shaitan came to me and showed me my lifetime accomplishments so that I could die with the arrogance and pride of how much I'd accomplished. And I told him, not even now, not even now. You're not here, and here, you're coming here to get me here. Oh, I'm not listening. I'm not listening to you here, just like I didn't listen to you in life. Yeah, so he could die humble and as he lived, mashallah. Okay, jinn do have free will, like we do. They are capable of belief and disbelief. And the Quran, they listen to the Quran, and the Quran is a guidance for jinn as well. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came to jinnati wan nas. And there are numerous occasions in the seerah where he actually spoke to jinn, but that's through him telling us this, and not because people saw the jinn. Okay? Yeah. Okay. I feel like you're going to have questions about jinn. So I'm going to move on. I'll hold on to your questions until I finish the angel thing, okay? So, what's the angel test? How do we know if we have, so what we want to be are angel magnets. We want to be people that are like, you know what a magnet is? Right? We want to be angel, you don't have this slide, sorry. We want to be angel magnets. Those who are just, like angels come to us, they hang around us. And we want to be repellers of shaitan. We want to be like Umar radiallahu anh, who had said when he walked on the road, shaitan went to the other side. Right? That's who we want to be. So how do we become magnets of angels? The Prophet ﷺ tells us that angels loved three things. Love three things. Modesty, purity, tahara. Tahara is the Arabic word for those of you who know it. And fragrance. Atar is the Arabic word. So modesty. Angels love modesty. So when we're talking about being in the house, for example, that's why Muslim cultures, there's a lot of modest clothing in the house and outside of the house. Because there's an attraction and a desire to attract angels. Whereas like in some non-Muslim cultures, you have from the bathroom, they get out of the shower and then from the bathroom, don't look! Right? As they run from one room to the other. But we know there's always those who can look. We know that we want angels. So we want to always be as modest as possible. And dress modestly. And subhanAllah, I used to say, when I first moved to Syria, hijab was everywhere, mashallah. And the streets, the driving was horrible. And but there were never accidents. And I used to joke and say, Wallah, mashallah, the angels are walking around with people everywhere and stopping the cars from hitting each other. Because everyone was dressed so beautiful, so modestly. It's not, unfortunately, true anymore as far as hijab. We have issues in our world today, unfortunately. But anyway. And purity is tahara. So angels love tahara. That's why angels don't stay in bathrooms usually, because bathrooms can be places of real filth. Najas. The opposite of tahara is najas, which is like urine, feces, blood, vomit. And then you say to yourself, ew, gross. Why would I have feces or vomit or urine or blood on my clothes? You're still looking at me funny. Okay, let me back up. First of all, blood, for women who menstruate, it's very important that you stay clean. Obviously you're changing your pad and this and that, but make sure your make sure your underpants are clean. Don't wear the same dry blood from yesterday to today. Make it clean. Keep them clean. Stay as clean as possible so you can attract angels. When we're talking about urine, mothers of babies, we can get urine on ourselves. Don't just throw that thing with urine. I have a really, really horrific story to tell you, and I'm going to tell it to you, even though I don't know if I have time, but you have to hear the story because you have to know how you can be a carrier of urine. I had this friend. She wasn't really a friend. I met this woman in Philadelphia when I lived there, and she was a new Muslim, and she was kind of a hippie, everything natural, mashallah, and she had this baby, and she was anti-disposable diapers. I'm not putting disposable diapers on my babies for a million reasons. And so she used cloth diapers, but she was also anti-plastic pants. So in those days, on top of the cloth diapers, you put plastic pants so that when they urinated, it wasn't just a thick, heavy cloth of urine, right? She was anti-plastic pants. And she invited me to her house for dinner one day. And the child was running around the house, and it was just, very sad. And then, but the real story is that I was leaving to Syria on a visit. I was going to visit. And before you travel internationally, you work really hard to put all your stuff in bags, and you choose what you're going to wear, and you're really certain of it. And my husband, God bless him, he's this guy who, he really wants to change the image of Muslim men, right? He wants to prove that all Muslim men are really good and really nice. And so she came over with her baby. And I didn't go near that baby because, I was like, mashallah, mashallah. In fact, even now, I'm a little bit hesitant about babies because I never know, are you a plastic pant mom or not? And, but my husband, Muslim men, they're so nice. And my husband, he doesn't really like babies. But he's like, oh, mashallah, what a cute baby. And the boy leaned out towards him. And so my husband picked him up. The second he picked him up, he realized he was wet. So who did he give him to? Me. And I was like, ah! But he didn't say he's wet. He just handed him to me. And and it was like, he soaked my arm. Yeah. So I had to take a shower. I had to rinse my blouse. I can't leave my blouse in my house with urine on it because I want my house to be an angel magnet. And so I had to rinse my blouse and wash myself and change all my clothes. And yeah, alhamdulillah, we weren't late, but that's another story. So anyway, so that's how, especially as women, we can be surrounded by urine, blood. Children vomit all the time. It's like their favorite thing to do. Especially the little ones. You know, they get sick in the car. It's just a thing, you know. And then you have grandchildren and you take them in the car somewhere and they're like, Tee, I don't feel good. You know, it's like, come on. And the only thing that's like the least common to find everywhere is feces. But then, you know, you never know about that either. My husband, one day, he took my daughter, she was 2 years old, and he was really tired. He didn't want to take her. I can't remember what the story was, why he didn't just get up when she was like, Baba, 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 Baba. So I guess he was asleep, and he was just like anyone. He picked her up instead, and yeah, that was a feces moment. So, I mean, children bring all sorts of things into our home. And if we want to be angel magnets, it's a lot of work to make sure that that's not there. And maybe when we're talking about it, it seems like, why are we even talking about this? Of course we're not going to have those things around. But we can do that because they're gross, or we can do that because we want to be angel magnets. And in wanting to be angel magnets, our intention becomes very beautiful. So our intention of getting rid of urine from clothes, rinsing urine from clothes, and rinsing blood from clothes, and washing things out, and making sure they don't sit around the house, and they don't sit around in piles and laundry and things like that. Our intention is to bring angels in. And to bring angels into a beautiful tahara home means we bring them into a place of great peace. It means, and they come in, our place becomes a place of great peace. A place of angels is different than a place without angels. Very, very different. And the last one is fragrance. The angels love beautiful smells. Beautiful smells. So we want to keep and that's what Muslim culture is, full of fragrance and good smells and musks and perfumes and atar and incense and all these different ways of bringing good smells in to our homes. So we want to make sure to really do that in our homes. Okay, so just quickly give yourself an angel test. What do you think you got in your house? 1 to 10. And tell your neighbor. Just tell your neighbor. 1 to 10. You can tell her 10 if you want. 1 to 10. What do you think? You have angels in your home. 1 to 10. Modesty test, purity test, and fragrance test. 1 to 10. Anyone think they have a 10? Let's put your hands up. Anyone with a 10? Anyone with a 5? 5 and above. Inshallah. Inshallah, 5 and above. Yeah, I think you all have 5 and above for sure. Yeah, inshallah. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. So now we'll bring all those angels in. Lots and lots of angels in our home, and bring peace. And angels don't like loud noises either, like slamming doors and all that stuff. We got to quit all that. Okay, prophets and messengers. And this one I want to just pause on just for a moment, because the whole thing of knowing something so that whatever is thrown at us is really important, especially around the Prophet ﷺ. Important things to know here. Prophets and messengers are truthful. 100% truthful. They never lie. They will never make something up. They will tell the truth all the time. They fulfill the trust. Their intelligence, it's more than genius. They preach what they're ordered to preach. They're chosen and helped. And that which is permitted for people is permitted for prophets. So human beings are permitted to marry. Prophets are permitted to marry. That's different than Christianity that looks down on marriage. And so again, global culture, we have to recognize those differences. A prophet would never betray or conceal or be stupid or foolish in any way. Prophets are, if we take human beings and we look at DNA, the best of the DNA, the best of the DNA, the best of the DNA, until a prophet exists, and that prophet himself with the physical, biological best DNA, along with the best of qualities and the best of characteristics, is the one who is chosen and helped as a prophet, he would never be stupid or foolish. My friend wants to write a book and call it, Don't Be Stupid. And like have all these things in there that are the dumb things that we do in this life, right? Like I want to marry this guy. He doesn't have any money, but I want to take care of him. Don't be stupid. I want to, I want to, I don't know what. So, but a prophet would never do anything foolish or stupid. Very quickly, we have two different words in Arabic for miracles, and it's important because we need to recognize that prophets are the only carriers of mu'jiza. There is the great miracle of a prophet, and that's called a mu'jiza, and human beings can never have a mu'jiza. We can have karama, Ahl Allah can have karama. There are other words for miracles of the everyday person. We can have miracles all the time happen to us. Miracles are happening all the time. Allah Kareem, or Rahman Rahim. So miracles happen all around us, but a karama is for a person of God, and a mu'jiza is for a prophet. I can give you examples of those later if we have time. Okay, quickly. So Adam alayhi salam was, of course, the first prophet and the first creation. His miracle is in just how humanity began, as him being the first creation and how the earth was populated. Noah, of course, Nuh alayhi salam. And his miracle was that there was a flood in the desert and that ark would be built in that place. It's really a miracle to think about an ark being built. And the people, he lived for over 900 years calling people. And he only had 63 followers, according to most narrations. Can you imagine the patience of this man? I can't even imagine. 63? And he, subhanallah. Okay. And then, of course, Ibrahim, who was the friend of God, Wali Allah. And here we have the miracle of the fire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala controls all things that he created. Therefore, when Ibrahim was put into the fire and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the fire, be cool for Ibrahim. This is a miracle because we know what we already said about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being in charge of all things. Ismail and Ishaq, the two branches of children from Ibrahim. Most of the prophets of this line come from Ishaq, but Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Ismail. And of course, Moses, the only prophet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to directly, and that's the parting of the Red Sea. And Isa, who very interestingly, Christians call him the Word of God, and so do Muslims, Kalam Allah, that's what we call him. And of course, we mean something very different, but it's quite interesting to me that we say the same thing. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and very quickly, the characteristics of his message, these things you need to hold on to. So when people say nutty things to you, you're like, doesn't fit in the characteristics of his message, can't be right. First one, it's all inclusive and forever. We don't, as the progressive movement says, we have to change the message of the Muhammad. We don't have to because we know it's all inclusive and forever. The message does not need to be changed. It does not need to be adjusted for the 21st century. It's protected by God. Whatever threatens our religion, we have to know that in essence, our religion will be protected. The Prophet ﷺ said, one of those protections will be in the protection of human beings. That every generation will come, men yujaddid deenakum. One who will, by the way. Men yujaddid is gender free. Men yujaddid deenakum. And one who will renew your religion for you. So hold on to that core. And there are studies and books that talk about, that looked through history and tried to identify who are those mujaddideen, those who protected our religion. Coincides with fitrah. Remember yesterday we talked about revert, convert, and we said that the word revert was developed because of this idea of fitrah. We said that the word revert we don't want to use, but Islam does connect with fitrah. Fitrah means the longing for God. Fitrah means the every human being, I don't care who he is or who she is, every human being is created with this longing for God, and that's that fitrah. And it's that longing that guides you to truth and to light. And so guides us to Islam. Islam seeks the message of the Prophet ﷺ seeks our benefit and stops that which hurts us. And so if there is something that is oppressive and people are saying this is Islam, then we need to say, whoa, hold on a minute. Let's back up and sit down and re-talk about this and think about this and find out where you're getting this idea. And is this what's going on here? Because if it's truly oppressive, it doesn't fit. It's not part of the message of the Prophet ﷺ. It repels all that causes difficulty and discomfort. But just a minute, I want to just say something about that word discomfort. It doesn't mean we're always comfortable. So to wear hijab in Paris is not comfortable. To wear hijab in maybe in the small towns of Minnesota is not comfortable. I'm not going to be comfortable. I'm not going to fit in. But it's a different kind of comfort and discomfort. So Islam, the message of the Prophet ﷺ repels that which is difficult and not comfortable internally, but not just the dunya comforts. I think I'm going to get rid of that word because the word comfort is confusing there. It's flexible and encompassing. Our religion is flexible. Otherwise, it would not fit in Malaysia and in India and in Nigeria. Ya Allah, subhanallah, when you think about it, subhanallah, how did this religion come to all these different places and cultures and just beautifully blanket and fit just right in the crevices and creases and all the beautiful places of our people. It's the khatam, the seal of the Prophet, so nothing is coming after that, and it replaces all that came before. So now we don't have perennialism, we don't have this idea that all religions are equal. However, we do have this idea that all religions have some truth, because they come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. Okay, revelation then. So we believe in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet then so that was number 3. Revelation, kutubihi, his books. His books are his revelation. How does revelation come to us? It comes to us in 4 ways. True dreams, angel Jibreel, he's the angel of revelation. Allah spoke to Moses directly, and then sometimes they would just come to the Prophet ﷺ's heart. What is left of this in the world today? What is left of this in the world today? Anything? True dreams. So true dreams is the only thing that remains of that connection. So what is revelation? Wahi. Wahi is the connection to the divine in a message form. Okay? A message form. And so the Prophet ﷺ said the only thing that will remain after him is true dreams. So really, actually true dreams can be something like that, can be a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us. Individually though, it wouldn't be for a whole society. Okay, we know, we're not going to do that because you all know that. Okay, this is interesting. Where was the Quran written when it was first revealed? It was written on different pieces of material, but I like this one. This is a camel bone. And so they would take the shoulder blade of a camel and they would write it on a camel bone. Okay, and so his books, why do we have books? Because they clarify belief, they correct deviation, and because humans have needs for laws and rules. We crave them. We like to be organized. Even when we say we're anarchists, we still like some level of organization and to know what we're supposed to do next. What am I supposed to do? Okay, 2 more real quick. Day of Judgment. Day of Judgment, we believe in the Day of Judgment. What does that mean? It means we believe a day will come when we will be asked. This isn't the place to go through all of the signs, major and minor signs of the Day of Judgment, or all of the things that happen on the Day of Judgment. The important piece here, the thing that we hold on to in the face of heaviness and darkness and oppression, is that there is a Day of Judgment. And if someone comes to you, I don't care if he prays all day long, if he comes to you in oppression, or he comes to you in great sin, or he comes to you to abuse you, Islam is innocent of him, and his hisab, his accounting, will be held on the Day of Judgment. And the beauty in this is that if someone hurts you on the Day of Judgment, the first thing you do is he takes from your sins. So you have a bunch of sins over here, right? And you got this guy who's been oppressing you, and you're like, marhaba, oh person who oppressed me in life. And then here's all these sins. And it's like, here you go, take some of my sins. You're like, oh, I'm really liking you. Take some more of my sins. Wow, I appreciate you more now than I appreciate even my friends. Take some more of my sins. If you run out of sins and he has some good deeds, you'll take some of his good deeds. That's for the one who oppresses you and hurts you on the Day of Judgment. And Allahu adil, he's fair and he's generous and good. And we have to be careful of overthinking this life as this life is, as though it ends. And find hope in knowing that this life is complete with all different stages. And the last one, right? Qada'u qadr. This is obviously a very long discussion, but the one thing I want to say about this that helps us to hold on is remember that some Muslim cultures are a little bit fatalistic, but we can't be fatalists because we believe in hisab, back to the one we just said before. We have a role in our decisions. Our decisions are important, and we are rewarded or punished based on our decisions. So when we decide to pray, we're rewarded for that. When we decide not to drink, we're rewarded for that. And it's through the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, and there's like lots of philosophical ways of talking about all this, but the main core of the point in this place is that there's a difference between qada and qadr. Qada are those things that we have no choice in. The color of your eyes, who your parents are, how tall you are. What else? What country you're born in. What my husband used to tell me, I was born in the wrong country. I should have been born in a village in Syria because I'm so Syrian in my ways and my everything. But that wasn't obvious. I mean, obviously that he can say that as much as he wants, but Allah didn't make a mistake. And my qada was to be born in America, and I was born in suburbs in Minnesota, and that was where I was. I had no choice. I couldn't have said, oh man, I made a mistake. Why Shoreview? Why not Damascus? I can't do, and also, when I was young, I used to think I was born in the wrong century. Why was I born in the 20th century? I should have been born in the 18th century. So, but I mean, of course, I didn't have a choice. I didn't get to decide that I was born in the 21st century. That's qada. Okay? Qadr is the one that is confusing. Because qadr is the one where we really have to rely on that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is outside of time and outside of space. Like we are confined by space and time. And we think in beginning and middle and end. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not confined by time. So he's in knowledge of all things. He knows all things. But within the things that happen to us, many different things can happen to us based on our choices and the choices of other people. And so all of those things that are happening to us, they are within qadr. Those are the things that are within qadr. I know that's not enough explanation about that, but that's all you get right now. We can expand on it later, but I have reached my deadline. And I think that's the end. Yep. That's the end of that piece. So when we're talking about belief and belief things, there's something I want to show you. So this is life, okay? And in our life, first we're created, and we live in, let's say, our mother's pregnant stomach. So we live within the womb, okay? And then we are born. This is birth. And we live in this life. Inshallah, long life. This is childhood. And this is adulthood. And then we die. And first we go to the grave. Actually, the grave will be longer in our life, most likely, unless let's say, okay? And then we have the day of judgment, or the day of resurrection. Two S's or one? Okay, and then we have forever. So this is what I want to share. When we think about life, we think about life here, really. And we need to start thinking about life as our individual life includes all of this. So, and each of these is a transition stage. So for example, does anyone here remember when your mother was pregnant with him? No? Oh, okay. Well, if you were to remember, just imagine then, that you're in the womb of your mother, okay? There you are, you're squished down, you're eating food from your umbilical cord, you're breathing you have liquid all around you, taking in liquid, spitting out liquid, okay? Your eyes are closed, you're all squished, you're in water, and imagine if I came and visited you, and I said, what's your name? Firdausi. I said, yeah, Firdausi, I'm going to tell you something. Very soon, I'm come to give you a message. Very soon, you are going to travel through a very small passage. And in that very small passage, your nose is going to be squished against your face. And your head is going to be squeezed together. And you're going to be squished together. And then finally, you're going to burst out into a whole new wonderful world where you're no longer going to be breathing in water, but actually you're going to be breathing in air. And it's going to be cold and you're going to cry, but it's going to be fine. Don't worry. And then we're going to cut your umbilical cord. And then we're going to shove your mother's breast into your mouth. Oh. Where then, at which time I want you to, you will suck it and you will eat and you will be happy and you will stop crying. What would you say to me? Say, you're crazy. You are a crazy woman. I don't believe you. You can just go home. Well, that is the analogy for death. We don't have a messenger here because we have no choice. We don't have a choice when we're here. We don't have a choice to be born or even how to be born. It's just going to happen. There's no choice. So we don't need a messenger to say, I want you to be born, okay? Or I want you to make the right decision about how to be born. You know, don't be breech. Don't go out bottom first. Go out head first. So there's no choice. But death is exactly like that. We live our life first in our childhood, then in our adulthood. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us messengers. That's what messengers were for. To tell us, okay, you're going to die. And in death, your soul is going to leave your body. And you're going to have signs of that death. And before that death, I need you to make tawbah. Because after death, you're going to spend time in the grave. And angels are going to ask you questions. You have to be able to answer them. And then you're going to spend time waiting for the day of resurrection. And then that's going to be another transition period where you're going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have hisab and hopefully forgiveness. And from that period, you go into the final life, which is the forever life. And so it is here that if we can start to think about death as the same as birth, we can start really listening to those messengers that are coming to us, because it changes. We begin to understand. This is perspective right here. This is our life. And I mean, this goes on and on, right? I mean, this is an arrow, like math, goes on forever. And so this death is just like this birth. It's moving from one stage to another. Okay, now the groups. So I have here, just study here and I'll take a look at it one by one. Okay, so we have groups. I'm going to erase this. So do we got this already? Gone? Okay. Okay, so there are different groups. We have the Sunni, we have Shia, but I'm not going to talk about them unless somebody wants me to. Anyone have questions about the Shiaism? No? Okay. So in Sunni Islam, we have different groups. What do I have here? Traditional, Salafi, and modernists. Okay. So we have three different, I'm actually going to change the names that are in there. I'm going to say literalist, modernist, progressive, calling themselves progressive, and traditional. Oops. I'm actually really glad you asked this because I just realized how important it really is to talk about. I had taken it out. Okay, now there's something very important that we have to know. And that is that Western thinking, let's say, move from traditionalism to modernism to postmodernism in the last century. So in only 100 years, Western culture, and really everyone, because we all followed in one way or another, we've all moved in this direction. This is Western culture. I'm going to call it Muslim culture. just for ease of explanation. Traditionalism for the West meant the church. Okay? Traditionalism for the West meant the church. It meant the church made decisions about things. In the last century, when modernism came forth, so traditionalism meant truth came from the church. Modernism was a development of science, and truth came from science. So the famous story of the Titanic, God himself can't sink this ship, right? That's all because of science and the belief in the strength of the human being. And there was a belief that truth with a capital T would come from science. It's so important, especially those who are studying psychology. Psychology was a field that tried its best to become a science. In other words, trying to find truth with a capital T about human behavior, that by itself is really problematic. Then we have postmodernism. Postmodernism said, well, we found out science isn't always true. You know, science said, oh, the church isn't always right. The church said no to gravity. The church said no to the solar system. The church doesn't know, so science is true. Postmodernism said, science can be used for political purposes. Oh, you can take a survey, you can do something and just show part of it and show other parts of it, and drug companies can make all of the money because of it. Oh, science can be used to oppress people. Oh, science is no longer capital T truth. And so postmodernism said there's only lowercase t. Now, one article I read said we are in a new stage. This is in America in the age of Trump, that we are now in a post-truth stage where truth doesn't matter at all. And something can be absolutely not true, and that's okay. And that's so scary, but it is really what's happening. So postmodernism, I don't know what we call this now. Some people are saying. Okay, now Muslims, we don't have a church. Alhamdulillah. We don't have a head church. So we were always pro-science. We liked experiments, we liked science. We're the ones who invented so many of these things. So what happened to us here? What happened to us in this place? So for us, traditionalism meant sanad. It meant a chain of knowledge. Okay? It meant following those who were before. And that we would find truth in that tradition. Now, I say capital T truth, but we also accepted lowercase truth. Because ikhtilaf al-umma rahma. So or maybe we accepted multiple capital T truths. But, so for example, if Imam Shafi'i says that breaking your wudu happens if you touch a man, and Abu Hanifa says, nope, that's not how you break your wudu, both are true and correct. It's wild that we have this. It's amazing. It's what an amazing religion that we can be that open. Okay, that's our traditionalism. So modernism hit us because we were right in the post-colonial dictatorship era when modernism happened in Europe. So how did it affect us? We became embarrassed about our tradition. We began to develop an embarrassment around holding on to tradition, and we wanted to have more science in our studies. And so we became political. We became political, and we also began to find truth, as Muslims, I mean. We began to find truth in political associations and in self-study of the tradition. So here, during this period, we were encouraged as Muslims to self-study the tradition instead of learning the tradition, if you know what I mean. So not even the tradition, self-study the Quran and Hadith only. So we were encouraged, what do we want with all this tradition? We're not sure about all of that. So we're modern. We're modern. We're cool. We're modern. We're going to have self-study of Quran and Hadith. Little politics in there really put pressure on as well. And I just want to say that a lot of the people that were heads of these movements were very sincere, and they were doing their best to hold Muslims to Islam. This is not a how did we fail discussion. This is just what happened, what happened with us. And there were books written that denied miracles. It was fascinating because the whole world was like, miracles aren't real. So we have books that like talk about Isra and Ma'raj as not real. Oh, it was just a dream. Astaghfirullah. Where we know the Prophet ﷺ said he himself went. It's a fact of our religion. It's a capital T truth of our tradition. But the Muslims here, they started getting nervous about that stuff. So they started writing that, oh, we're not sure. Okay. Postmodernism said, well, now what do we do? So postmodernism over here was also every Muslim finding their own way. My Islam. Right? So capital, lowercase t, my Islam. I'm disconnected from teachers. I don't really need a teacher. But also, like, I'm doing my own self-study, and I like this, I don't like that, I like this, I don't like this. So we grew into something sort of called my Islam here. Are we in post-truth? I don't know. Like, I'm not, this is something brand new, and I'm not sure where we are here. We might be, I'm not sure. I don't know. I have to think about that. I'm not sure where we are here. And even here, I'm talking about large generalities. Okay. So what is all of this up here? So traditional Sunni Islam includes the 4 schools of thought. Like here, in the Malaysian society, we are Shafi'i. We follow the Shafi'i madhab, right? Doesn't everyone in Malaysia follow the Shafi'i madhab? Am I correct in thinking that, or is it? Oh, so Indians that are in Malaysia also follow Hanafi? Okay. Shafi'i plus, we know what Hanafi is. That's a traditional Islam is really looking at the madhahib and seeing how that moves. Madhahib of fiqh, madhahib of aqidah, madhahib of all this stuff, okay? Literalist and modernist Muslims tended to be those who did their best to try to get rid of what they saw as excesses of the tradition and focus us to sort of save us. And these were, of this time, they were Salafi and any other literalist movement. There were some others. And the progressive movement comes out of the postmodernist movement in the West. And the progressive movement, that's what they call themselves, progressives. And they claim attachment to Sunnism, but they allow for, actually, they might be the post-truth people, now that I think about it. Because here, so in you know how in politics you have right and left? And then I'm a political scientist, so if you bring them like this, the right, who are the fascists, and the left, who are the communists, they really meet in the middle. They're the same. They're very, very different, but the spectrum, they end up meeting in the middle. In the same way, those who are very literalist, let's say they're on the right over here, okay, literalist, and those who are progressive, they're over on the left. But if you draw a circle, they use the same methodology, so they meet in the middle. They use the same methodology because they deny tradition. Now, this is really an important lesson in where we are today, because the sort of revival of Islam has to be rooted in traditionalism. We need to understand the modernist movement and benefit from it, how it could benefit us. And we need to understand the issues around postmodernism and understand the issues that the progressive movement is addressing, but find those solutions in traditional Islam. Or at least that's my opinion. So that's a big, long lecture around just some of those first words. In your book, you have, under traditional Sunnism, you have tasawwuf. Tasawwuf is the Arabic word for Sufism. And tariqah, traditionally, every Muslim traditionally, previous to the modernist period, would introduce themselves like this. Hello, I am Tamara bint Earl. And then fill in their madhab. So they'd be, assalamu alaikum, I'm Tamara bint Earl, a Shafi'iyyah. So they would fill in their fiqh school, their aqidah school, and their tariqah. Like that's what they would do. So let's say we have Layla over here. Layla bint Ahmed, al-Hanbaliyya, al-Ash'ariyya, شو اسمه شو بعرفني Tijaniyya, for example. Okay? So that's how people would introduce themselves in traditional Islam. And of course with modernism, we got away from a lot of that for a number of different reasons, which just we don't have time to talk about today. But that's what tasawwuf is. I guess I'm just answering this question here. So tasawwuf is just attaching yourself to one way of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and doing tazkiyah. Neo-Salafi movement is the scary movement. So Salafi by itself is not a scary word. I don't think we should be afraid of it. I think that the word, those who follow a Salafi manhaj are sincere in doing their best. But Neo-Salafism is when you kaffir everybody. When you tell everyone that that everyone else except for me is a kafir. And that is very dangerous, and it's away from traditionalism and Sunnism. So we do need to be careful of those movements, especially as converts, because very often we seek that sort of, only this is true. And we have to be careful of being drawn into such ways of thinking. And then we already talked about the progressive. The progressive movement, I believe, is the most dangerous movement today because it feeds the nafs. It says basically whatever you want. It basically has this sort of theory that you can be a Muslim without practicing any of the tradition of Islam and just sort of accept any societal change as acceptable and halal. And it's very dangerous for the continuation of our tradition. There are thinkers around that idea, and they're quite prolific. They write a lot, and the rest of us are not writing. So it's really dangerous because it's very influential.